Hello, and welcome to the second Virtual Superfriend Celebration. I know you're all excited. I'm excited. And I hope there are lots of you out there in the audience. We've been hyping this thing for months, and we've got some really great guests in the green room waiting to say hello to you. So we'll give our spiel for the Actors Fund at the end of this panel, of course. And that's really why we're here, is to benefit this great charity, but also to have fun. And it's obviously been a really rough over a year now. And we're all looking to celebrate fandom and just have a fun weekend. So have fun with it, y'all. I'm going to bring in Steve, our panel moderator, and he's going to introduce himself. So let's just exit this solo layout and give Steve the forum. So hello, Steve.
Hey there. My name is Steve Fischer, and I am helping to work out this weekend with the Superfriend Celebration. And welcome to the Diedrich Bader Q&A interview panels. We're going to talk with him, and we're going to learn some of the stuff that he does, that he has done, some of his craft. And I know a lot of you are probably interested, because we are super friends. You're interested in learning about Batman the Brave and the Bold and some of his other animated projects and stuff. But he's done a lot more than just voiceovers and animation. He has done lots of television. He's done movies. There's a lot to learn about this guy. So we're going to go in and we're going to talk and we're going to have a good time. And so I'm going to bring him in right now. Let's see. All right. Here he is. And hi there, Diedrich. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm very happy to get to talk to you. And for those of you watching the stream, we have some other super friends that are here. Kristen and her sidekick Lauren are on screen watching as well. And apparently they have a
the Drew Carey
Cleveland Rocks bobblehead.
Nice.
With Drew Carey.
Love it.
So I guess we'll get into the Q&A session. So I am a huge fan of yours, and I like every time I see you, I have to watch, because it's just everything I've seen you in, I've loved.
Oh, thank you.
I would like to know, first of all, how did you get started in the business, and what made you want to become an entertainer?
So I got started because I was on vacation in Santa Fe, New Mexico with my parents, and we went to a dinner party, and I met a casting director who was casting a pilot for a pilot as the first episode of a prospective series for ABC. And it's a Western called Long Arm, and she was a local casting director, so she was only in charge of smaller parts, but she read me for this local cast part, which was the young gunslinger. And I read it, and she said, okay, that was really funny. And I said, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The problem was it's not a comedic part. So I'd like to read you for the comedic part of the goofy deputy, but it's supposed to be cast over Hollywood, New York. So I went on tape for it, and then met the executive producers later. And when they came to Santa Fe, I was still on vacation, and then I got cast, and my parents went home, and I stayed and shot a Western, which was really fun. I dressed up like a cowboy and rode a horse, and yeah, I mean, I was kind of entranced immediately. It was fun hanging out with the other actors and writing, doing all this stuff. I've never done another Western, which I would ultimately love to do. But so, yeah, that's how I got started.
Had you ever ridden a horse before this?
Yes, I had ridden a horse before, but not Western. And it's pretty different. So I had to figure out how to do that pretty quickly. Because at one point I had to ride down the middle of the street and shoot people off the roofs, and there were explosions happening left and right, and it was really fun. I had a great time.
Excellent. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, I think that when you were a child, you lived in France.
That's right. That's right. That was my inspiration to be an actor with Charlie Chaplin, and I used to go to silent movies when I was really little, and I worked up a Charlie Chaplin act, and one day at a screening of one of my favorite theaters, because there was a live accompanist, the film got caught and burned, and I jumped in between the audience and the screen, and I did my Charlie Chaplin act, and the organ player played, and that was kind of it. I got a standing ovation. It was probably the only one I'll ever get, but it was fun.
Great. That is awesome. And I think I remember hearing at some point that you, while you had the bug for entertainment, screen wasn't really something you were looking for.
No, I was going to be a stage actor. Yeah. I mean, I've done plays subsequently, but I was really going to dedicate myself to it, and I really was not interested in doing the screen, even though that was my inspiration when I was a kid. It was something that I was not interested in doing. I was going to a school of the arts in North Carolina, and they were really focused on the stage. And I was all in. I enjoyed doing Chekhov and Shakespeare and all the classics, and yeah, that's what I was planning on doing. But then I got cast in this pilot, and I was Screen Actors Guild by default. And so I decided to go with the union that I was in. But my really talented guy who was my roommate was having a hard time in New York, and I thought, I mean, if he doesn't succeed at this, I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
So I decided to go with the union that I got in.
Okay. That sounds good. That's fun. And did you have any specific genre of stage acting you wanted to do? Like, were you going to concentrate Shakespearean, or just anything that came your way? Or,
I mean, my dream was to get into the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and just be one of their actors, and never leave Oregon. That was kind of my dream.
Ah, yes. And when did you realize that? I mean, you had been in the Western. When do you think you realized that this was it, that you had been on the screen and you actually had made it, and like people who walked down the street saw you and were like, I know you?
I guess the first time I was recognized was for a Bud Light commercial, Bud Light, something like that. And I think that was the first time I was recognized, and that was fun. Because it's lovely. People just say nice things. If they don't like you, generally they don't say anything. And then the Hillbillies hit, and then did okay. I mean, it wasn't a huge hit, but it did all right. And some people really loved it, and so I started getting recognized there. And but I didn't get any movie roles after the Hillbillies. Like, I was disappointed. I thought I would be a movie star, but I just didn't get any parts.
Yeah.
So I went back to television. I had done a series with Penelope Spheris. She was the one who cast me in as Jethro. And then I went back to television and did the Drew Carey Show. And then I realized I was really happy doing television. Like, especially the live audience stuff is really fun, especially once you're on air and people love the show. The audiences come, and it's a big event. And it's really genuinely fun.
Well, see, that's something that I think when I hear about filming before a live studio audience, because so many people talk about television shows and the canned laughter, and I think that, for a lot of the stuff, you're in front of a studio audience, and it's live for you right there in the moment. And so you can play off of how, like, when your character first walks in for the first scene of a particular episode, you can tell everyone's cheering because they see Oswald walk in. They're like, "Yay!"
Yeah, that's why it's fun.
Yeah.
The first year was tough because the crowd didn't really know the show. We hadn't really, especially before we made air. That it was difficult to get a crowd. You have to pay them to come, and some of them aren't paying much attention and
Yeah.
they don't want to be there, which is understandable. I mean, it's their Tuesday night or whatever. But but then once you're on air, then they're really happy to be there and they just love it. And I loved working with in front of a crowd because it just brought out all kinds of things, and you could play with timing and. Working with Ryan Stiles, Ryan loved to improvise. So, especially with the Lewis and Oswald scenes, I didn't know how they would go because I knew Ryan was gonna mess with me somehow, because he always did. And I was very, very lucky to be with somebody so incredibly talented for the amount of time that I was partnered with him.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, having seen him many times on Whose Line Is It Anyway, I can see where you would wonder when he walks in,
what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, guaranteed it's not going to be what we rehearsed. But
yeah. And you had talked about doing Beverly Hillbillies and how some people really like it and have latched onto it, and some people are just like, this isn't what I remember watching on TV. And you played two characters in it, did you not?
Yes, Jethro and Jethreen. And Jethreen and Max played very differently than myself. I really went and tried to play as much as I could a young woman, and trying to be funny. But I wasn't trying to say, "Hey, is a guy in a dress," because I thought, and also Max was looped by Paul Henning's daughter, the executive producer's daughter. So I didn't want to do the guy in the dress joke as because it's not that funny really. There's a guy, he's in a dress. So I thought it was funny to bring out the femininity of Jethreen and try to make her a sort of Southern belle. I mean, some people like it, some people don't. So there you
go. Do you have any interesting stories from your time on set with the Beverly Hillbillies that you can remember? Or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was a great set. I mean, Jim Varney was incredibly nice to work with. Cloris Leachman was truly hilarious. Dabney Coleman has the best timing I've ever been around in my entire career to this day. Lily Tomlin was delightful to work with and a real professional and really, really focused. She was delightful. Like the second she showed up on set, she was just so had planned out things and had she was really good. I really liked working with Lily. She was great. And I've seen her subsequently, and she's just a really lovely person. I mean, I guess the funniest Jethreen story is that we went to wig fitting for Jethreen to do to get Jethreen's wig. And they said, so do you have an idea of how you want Veronica Lake to look? I'm sorry, God, I screwed up my own story because I read a question over there. How do you want Jethreen to look? And I said Veronica Lake without even thinking about it. Apparently I've been thinking about it in my subconscious and I didn't really know. But when asked, I was like, Veronica Lake. And why somebody my size would want to be Veronica Lake? Because she was 5'1" or something, just tiny. I want to answer this question that somebody asked. That is my mom's piece. Let me see how do I do this backwards. Right there. No, right there. That is a portrait of a guy in the neighborhood where her studio was. Nice guy. He used to sweep the sidewalks. He was a retired acrobat, and my mom just loved his face, and so she hired him as a model, and I inherited it, and it's one of my favorite pieces of hers. To answer that question.
Very nice. And so, talking about movies, when you talk about, let's say, cult favorites, two of the most cult classic movies in existence are Napoleon Dynamite and Office Space. And those are movies I think that anyone, walking down the street can quote and say things. And And I just think that if someone were to say, if you were talking about Diedrich Bader, sometimes they might say, "Well, who?" And then
Yeah. Oh, no, I get that a lot. It's not a very recognizable name, and a lot of people recognize my enormous face, but they're not sure why. But yeah, those are two huge cult movies, definitely.
Yeah. So if you mentioned the name and Rex Kwon Do or watch your cornhole, bud, then
Sure.
everyone will be like, oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And those are movies that so like Office Space didn't do very well at all in the theater.
That's right. It
And-
bombed. It was a huge bomb. Actually, my wife and I went opening weekend, and there was only one other guy in the theater, and then he left. So we were it, and that's why I didn't see it for 10 years until the 10th anniversary in Austin. I was really crushed by it because I loved the movie so much, and I was like, I have no taste, or at least my taste isn't in sync with American taste, because that's really what I loved it. And I loved what I was seeing on the screen, but it was an epic bomb. Huge. I guess Fox didn't know how to market it. That was part of the problem. There was a question I want to answer. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The mustache of Lawrence was a fake mustache that they put on. I wanted to look like an Allman Brother. The Allman Brothers, like on the double album. Inside, I wanted to disappear in that picture when I was a kid and just be one of those hippies. So I really wanted to have that type of mustache. And then Mike's idea was to have the mullet. So the Lawrence's mullet was Mike's idea, and I had to put it on the day before. So I would fly in. I was actually shooting another picture in Dallas, and I would fly in the day before, and they would put the mullet in, and then I would go to bed with my mullet, and then go in the morning. Yeah.
Well, I will say you do have good taste, because that is a fantastic movie.
Oh, thank you.
And it's a movie that I can watch over and over again, never get tired of it. At my full-time job at work, I have a red swing line stapler, and I have a copy of the memo thumbtacked up to my cubicle wall, because that movie is just. It's so great, and so a
lot of people associate with it. That's one of the great things about comedy.
I know so many people I've talked to that have seen it said that it is so relatable on so many different levels.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's great that way. Anybody who works in an office can associate with it. Mike obviously worked in an office and took a lot from that experience. Mm-hmm. I think the cast was uniformly amazing, Stephen Root he's incredible in that.
Yes, he is so good.
Yeah.
So you've done TV. You did Drew Carey for a number of years, and you've done in some. I will be honest. In some of my research coming up for this interview, I looked up on IMDb to see some of the other stuff you've done, and I'm like, American Housewife. Let me give that a try. I love it.
Oh, how nice! Thanks.
So funny. I hadn't seen it, and I didn't know much about it, and I watched it, and I'm like, now I'm gonna watch all through, because it's just such a good show. And so everyone out there, American Housewife, check it out, ABC. Yeah,
it's also on Hulu. We recently got canceled, which was a little bit sad. But we are being replaced by a show with Dule Hill and Don Cheadle, and it's going to be great, and people are going to love it, and it's going to be the revamping of the Wonder Years. I think it's going to be excellent. But I'm very proud of the work that I did on American Housewife. I loved working with the crew and the cast and the writers. It was a great experience for me.
Good. And so,
thanks, Tom.
Voiceover.
Yeah.
That is something that, a lot of people who recognize you might not realize that's something that you do a lot of, that you lend your voice to a lot of different things. Where did you first get, what made you first get into voiceover?
So Jamie Thomason one of the great voiceover directors and casting directors at Disney cast me in Gargoyles as a Scottish something or other. I was a bad guy. I can't remember now.
Okay.
I'd just gotten back from Scotland, and so my Scottish accent was pretty on point. I mean, I'm sure if you're from Great Britain, you probably have issues with it, but it sounded okay. And I really enjoyed the work. I'm easy to work with, I think. So Jamie continued to hire me for other projects that he was working on. And once you get into that world, it's a very cloistered world. You just start meeting all the casting directors and working with everybody. And it's really, really fun. It's the closest to playing I have experienced in show business, because it's like you're a little kid and you get to do whatever you want. You're not restricted by the fact that I look like whatever I look like. I can be anything. So it's really cool that way. I totally enjoy it.
Well, that's interesting. You can the character can look like anything. When you come to do a voice, how is it that you prepare for a specific voice? Because I'm sure you get the script well ahead of time. You've read through it several times. And where does the voice come from?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, I mean, you have to read it and prepare, but you also can't be too locked in because the producers and the casting director, dialogue director will want some input. So you shouldn't get too locked in on your performance. You got to be open to direction, in other words. So you may have one idea, but it's a little like improv in that you may have like, we're going to be in a stuck elevator. You walk up and somebody goes, "Hey, coach," and you're like, "Oh, I guess I'm in coach now." So you have to be willing to go with it. I had a question there that I want to answer.
Sure.
What was it like to work with Scooby-Doo? I have done it a number of times, and working with Scooby was really great. Scooby is voiced by the amazingly talented Frank Welker, and the first time I worked on Scooby-Doo, I also worked with Casey Kasem. So that was a pleasure.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I had grown up listening to him, and Frank, of course, too, but I'd grown up listening to Casey Kasem on the radio as well. So I was a little overwhelmed by the moment, and I started sounding like Casey. And they were like, "Diedrich, you got to stop sounding like," yeah. And I was like, but working with Frank is always a pleasure. The first time I worked with Frank Welker was on Hercules, and he played a donkey, and it was one of my favorite experiences I've had in show business, because he really sounded like a donkey. I know that doesn't sound like much, but we can all make donkey sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. That's my audition for donkey.
Excellent.
But thanks. But Frank actually sounded like a donkey. So he's amazing. He and D. Bradley Baker do most of the creature sounds here in Hollywood, and they're both really remarkable. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. What it's like to work with Scooby.
Yeah. And that's good. I mean, I'm always I'm a Scooby fan too. So, and regarding the animated stuff, what do you find are like some of the major differences, other than the fact that you're animated and you're not animated, between doing animation and live action?
Well, first of all, a movie is a very slow process. I mean, people don't really know this, but every scene has different setups for different shots. Most of the time, you'll do over 30 takes for every setup. So you can only do, maybe a page and a half a day, 2 pages tops. So movies are really, really slow. So people always ask me, like, "Why don't you do more movies?" I'm like, "Why don't you go do movies?" Because it's really boring. I like doing television because it moves really fast, especially, of course, in front of an audience, because you're doing it like a play. And also, it's largely in town. and I like being around my wife. I'm happy to be married, and she's cool. And so I don't like to leave town so much. But and then animation, of course. If you read it together as a cast, it's really fun because especially in Warner Brothers stuff, you sit in a semicircle and you all record together, and that's really great. Disney stuff you do by yourself, which in of itself is kind of fun too, because you get to do 3 different takes of everything and not bore everybody. And I think I did 5 Phineas and Ferbs. No, 3 Phineas and Ferbs in 10 minutes. So you can bang it out pretty quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you did the Phineas and Ferb movie, and one of the questions that I had from Lauren was, what was it like being in the Phineas and Ferb movie?
Well, it's great to work with Swampy and Dan anytime I can. They're both incredibly talented people. My family, we watched every episode of Phineas and Ferb. So I actually at Comic-Con was their moderator for their panel.
Okay, wow.
Because I was able to filter out those that were fans and not fans because I'd seen every episode. So yeah, for me as a fan and as an actor, it was a great experience all the way around.
So when you are doing voiceover acting, of course, like we established before, you've read the script multiple times, but you're in the studio, you have the script in front of you. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the difference in craft between reading the script and having a script memorized when you're doing live action? And how do you go about learning your lines in doing like live action TV and movies?
Sure. One of the great things about being on a multicam, which is what the Drew Carey show was that you rehearse all week. So by the time you get to shooting, the lines, a lot of them change because you do a run through every day for the writers, and then they look at the script and they decide what works and doesn't work and change it. But the majority of the time, your lines are the same. So you've been rehearsing all week, you perform them a number of times. By the time you hit the stage in front of the audience, you're pretty good to go. When you're on a television show that shoots a single camera, like American Housewife, for example, you've only had them for a couple days, sometimes the day before. On Veep, sometimes they would just hand us the script on the morning that we were shooting. And that's what we would shoot. So it's difficult to know your lines that fast. Some people are good at it. I'm okay at it. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of work to memorize lines. It's a lot of work. For movies, you get the lines way in advance, months. But because you have to say them hundreds and hundreds of times, sometimes you've said them so much that they sound like gobbledygook, and by the time you tune around to they have stopped sounding like English. So for animation, because you as you say, you've read the script before, but you haven't really heard it. Well, I guess you can practice at home. Anyway, it's new. You're discovering it. It's cool. You have to keep an open mind, as I said, and so you have to just let it flow a little bit. It's very cool. The fact that you don't have to memorize lines means that you're able to really dig in very easily. Mm-hmm. Because you just look at the content and its meaning and go from there. What's interesting about voiceover acting is that you have to put more into it than you would, especially for movies. Movies, you have to do as little as possible. For animation, you have to do more than you really think you should because you're not on screen. So your voice needs to tell the story and a half. There's lots of on-camera actors I've worked with who are great on-camera actors, but once they get in front of a microphone, they do what would work on camera, but it's not enough for voiceover. You need to turn it up to 11. Otherwise it's flat.
Nice Spinal Tap reference, by the way. So,
thanks for catching it.
Yes, well, one of the animated shows that you did that a lot of people love is Batman Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, great part. Best part ever.
And I will say that I love the voice. I love the plots. I love the fact that it was something in which they tried to throw a superhero in all the time that maybe didn't get something a certain superhero you haven't seen before on TV. They're like, we're going to take a DC character that's not, someone that relatively many people know, and we're going to put them in the show, and they're going to help.
Also the supervillains. I was really happy with the supervillains that they were able to draw from deep in the lexicon, not always the rogues gallery, which is the standard Batman trope, which is totally fine. Of course, everybody loves the Joker, but really reaching in and finding obscure characters was one of the great joys of the show, and getting all these actors to come in and portray characters that people hadn't heard of. So they were able, I should say, to put their own stamp on it. I mean, pretty much the Joker has, in animation, since Mark, been played like Mark. I mean, even Alan, who's fantastic, is doing a little bit of Mark.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bennett, who played it for us, is doing Mark a little bit too. I mean, he's like the template, which I totally get. Kevin, of course, was the touchstone for me and my Batman. Not that I sounded a lot like him, but it was certainly something that I kept in mind.
Oh, sure.
He's the greatest Batman ever, and so yeah, I mean that's something that you keep in mind. But yeah, I loved how they reached deep in the lexicon. That has a lot to do with the showrunners James Tucker and Michael Jelinek, who are both really talented, great guys who know their stuff and really want to be in that world. And yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah. How did you?
Outrageous.
How did you get the part for Batman? I mean, did somebody reach out to you? Did you see that through casting that there was a part coming up for Batman, or?
Well, I read for it. Andrea Romano, one of the most famous casting directors in animation here in Los Angeles, and I worked together on a show which ran a while. I can't remember how many seasons we did, called the Zeta Project, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was during the height of the Drew Carey show, so we would record on Wednesday. I would do Tuesday nights. I would do the Drew Carey show, and Wednesday morning I would do Zeta Project, and I really loved it. It was the first time I was a regular on an animated show.
Okay.
And, Andrea and I are friends to this day, and she's just the best. But anyway, she brought me in for Batman, and I was a little surprised because I was more of a comedy guy, but they wanted a lighter tone. So I read for it, and Tucker was in, and then they sold it to Warner Brothers. We got some flack when we went to Comic-Con years ago before the show aired. They were worried that somebody that did comedy would not honor their version of Batman. But I think for real fans of Batman, they realized that it kind of harkened back to, the Adam West, and that there are all types of Batman.
Well, there are. And I remember that was a lot of the criticism before Michael Keaton, before his movie came out. People were saying Mr. Mom is Batman, and they didn't want to believe it. And then they watched it, and they said, this is great. And I do like that The Brave and the Bold has a lot of seriousness, but it does have a lot of comedy. I loved that Aquaman loved to tell stories about these great adventures that he had with whomever, because
John DiMaggio, that's one of the great voice performances, in my opinion, ever. I think, who would win a fight, Batman or Rex Kwando? Batman, come on. It would be an interesting fight, though. I don't know if it lasts long. Yeah. But anyway, watching John DiMaggio come up with that Aquaman character, because he had one idea, and as I said, you have to keep it open. So once he started working with Andrea and Tucker, he came. It was like magic. So he had one thing, and then he drifted around it a little bit, and then he hit on it, and everybody in the room went like that, because it was such an original creation, such a beautiful thing. And it felt like it was always there, and that John discovered it, and we were all lucky enough to see it. I want to answer this question. My favorite part of becoming the persona of Batman was that Batman has the greatest backstory of any character you could possibly want. So all you have to do is remember his incredibly tragic story and his ability to take tragedy and make it something of an opportunity to become something better than himself. And he's a beautiful cat.
Yeah, he is. And I will say, you know, there were some moments when you would watch the show and you would say, this is really serious. When Batman meets Joe Chill. And this series has been out for quite a while, so no spoilers. I mean, spoilers will have long passed, but for those that don't know, Joe Chill is the man that killed Thomas and Martha Wayne. And Batman finally is told who he is, finally meets him, and confronts him. And that scene was extremely powerful and extremely, I just felt like you don't know at that moment if Batman is going to kill him or not.
Yeah.
And Batman pulls off his mask and says, I'm Bruce Wayne, and then proceeds to beat the crap out of the guy. And I just, what was it like, you know, filming that scene?
Well, you are clearly a fan of the show because that's one of our best episodes, and also for me, you know, I talked about going to North Carolina School of the Arts, the art school that I went to prepare.
Yeah.
My mentor there was a guy named Yuri Belov, who had directed in Russia. He was Stanislavski technique, really lovely guy, and he had this expression called crossing over. He's like, you got to make sure that you cross over. And the crossing over is when you have left yourself and you have become the character, so you're really thinking like that person. And there is an odd moment when you realize you've crossed over, when something happened and you had a thought that was an original thought, and it was as this person and not as yourself. And it happens a lot when you do it on stage because you have to do it so many times. You do it over and over and over again and in front of an audience, so you have to discover it every time. And then sometimes thoughts, memories occur to you that didn't happen to you. And it's like, oh, I've crossed over. That episode, in that particular scene, I crossed over. And it was so powerful for me that I did a very un-Batman-like thing. I started to cry because it was so intense to actually be confronting the killer of my parents, and know that this thing that this guy did made me everything I am, and that I am able in this one moment to tell him that was it's great writing, but it was a great opportunity for me. And in a voiceover session, you know, as I said in Warner Brothers, like everybody's there, and I was like, because I had crossed over. I was really feeling what Batman was feeling at that point. Yeah, or Bruce, however you want to put it. I'm going to answer this question about being Batman on Harley Quinn as opposed to Batman Brave and Bold. The comedic style is very different. So Batman Brave and the Bold was a lighter touch, more ironic. Harley Quinn is darker, so it's more sort of digging into the darkness of it, and really bringing out how Batman is the kind of grown up in the room. He mentors and cares about Harley Quinn. I know that's strange to say, but he really does. He sees her as somebody capable of redemption. Joker, not so much. So that's kind of like the difference. Does that make any sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Someone asks, what version of the Batmobile do you prefer?
Brave and the Bold. That's the best. That's the best. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Have you ever, when doing voiceovers for a specific show, had in your head a voice that you thought was perfect, and you went in and they said no?
No, I don't think so. Because I'm so open to direction that I've never
Okay.
thought anything is perfect, and I've never gotten locked in or been like shocked that they wanted in a different direction. That doesn't apply to on-camera stuff. There have been some on-camera stuff where I thought it was one way. I got an offer and just showed up, and I really thought that it should be one way, and they totally disagreed. So that has happened because with on-camera stuff, you have to be more prepared. You don't know what is going to happen. So a lot of times, you as an actor, you're not as open as you are when you're working with animation.
Okay. And let's see. Wrote some notes down.
Okay.
Do you have?
That was Kevin.
I know. Oh, that was Kevin. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was answering the question.
No. I understand. No, I saw the question. It's good. Good.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode of Brave and Bold, or do you like? I mean, The Chill of Night is considered by many to be the best, if not one of the best, if not the best episode. But is there any episode that?
Yeah, I mean, I like anything with John in it, and I mean, any of the Aquaman ones are great for me. The Chill of the Night, of course, is a classic, in my opinion. I really love that one. The last one is a particular favorite, with Batmite. Yeah, I just like that speech at the end. It's really beautiful. Yeah, there's a number of them. I think some of them are kind of mind-blowingly cool. I'm trying to remember the one he's not Two-Face. He's like Equinox or something. I can't remember. He's got like two sides of him, and he works for some sort of time gods or something. Does anybody remember that?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But I like those. I thought the plots were really good for those. I'm sorry, I can't remember. It was a while ago.
So you've done more DC. You played Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
In
Red
Sun.
That's cool.
And I just think the aspect of voice acting is so fun because you get to have fun. You get to play. You get to do stuff that you don't do when you're on screen. And you get to and like you said, with the table reads, it's got to be fun. It's got to be very fun to just sit around and have everyone do their part. And
oh, it's a blast. It's an incredibly fun world. And the voiceover world is so talented. It is talent based, and sometimes for on-camera world, like people have a certain look, and that tells a lot of the story. But that doesn't mean that they're like great. It just means they look like the person. When you think of the part, they look like that person. So sometimes you're restricted by that. Like a lot of really pretty people are not great actors. So it's not as fun to work with them because it's not really acting. You're sort of just running lines and trying to get the story told as fast as possible, really. But in the voiceover world, you work with somebody like Ray Delisle or Tom Kinney or, Kevin Michael Richardson or D. Bradley Baker, as I brought up earlier, Frank Welker, John, Will Friedle. There's just so many talented people. It's just, and when they get started, you're like, wow, look what you can do. So I love that aspect of it. It's very fun for me. I truly enjoy it.
Good. We have another question from Lauren.
Okay.
She wants to know what it was like working on Buzz Lightyear of Star Command?
Oh, that was fun. Playing Dark Matter. I was working with Bob and Mark, who also did Hercules, and they also did. They did Penguins. We just finished Big Hero 6 together, and we did one other show together, which I'm not remembering. Monsters versus Aliens together. So I've worked with Bob and Mark a lot. Working on oh my God, which one were we talking about?
Buzz Lightyear.
Right. Yeah, so Buzz Lightyear was really fun. Warp was a great character. I got to improvise a lot, which is fun for me.
Sure.
I kind of have Tourette's on that, so I just blurt out jokes anyway. I'm kind of sort of irritating to everybody, I'm sure, but it is fun to do. Pat Warburton was the lead in the series, but then Tim did the movie version, and then Tim had to replace Pat's dialogue because Pat originally they animated to Pat and then Patrick. I'm sorry, and then he had to Tim had to loop it, and I heard that was quite the sessions. Those were quite the sessions.
And one other question from Lauren was that do you have any funny stories from working on Tangled?
On Tangled? Oh yeah. No, I loved working on that show. Really fun. Sean and I went in together, and he and I almost made up pretty much everything. That was rare because usually I just do things here or there. But in that one, Sean and I just sort of winged it, and then they would animate to it. We would ask what is supposed to happen, and then we really just made everything up. That was really fun. We did one and got in the show where I was I come back with lunch, and he goes, "What are you eating there?" I'm like, "Quiche." He goes, "Why didn't you get me quiche?" And we did this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. And Sean is great, a really lovely guy, and so that was super fun. And of course, it's got the music and Zac, and it's cool. Yeah, it's fun. That was a fun show. Really, really great executive producer on that, Chris. Yeah, lovely guy.
Good. Do you have anything coming up that you want to tell us about? Any projects on the horizon, or?
Well, we're doing more Harlequin, and yeah, Sean is a darling. We're doing more Harlequin. I'm sorry, I signed some NDAs.
Oh, that's fine.
I don't remember which are the NDAs
yeah.
and which are the ones that I'm allowed to talk about.
Sure.
It's kind of this balancing act in my head. They make you sign so many NDAs these days.
Yeah, for those who don't know, that'd be a non-disclosure agreement, meaning that he can't talk about the show, or he'd have to kill you. I mean, not so much.
Yeah, you could get fired. It's possible. I mean, the chances of it are pretty slim, probably, but it's they really want to roll it out the way they want to roll it out. So I have 3 projects where I've signed NDAs.
Okay.
But I am doing on camera. I'm doing another Space Force, so I'm happy about that. I'm going to be doing some more better things in animation. Right, those are the NDAs.
Okay.
So that's what I could talk about. Sorry. Once they have this. Oh wait, the one I can talk about. Originally, I signed an NDA for, but now I can talk about is now I have to remember it. He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Yeah, right. Kristen, thank you. I'm sorry, sweet of you. Yeah, so that was fun getting to work with Kevin again. Kevin Smith. I'm sorry, all these various Kevins. Kevin Conroy is actually on the show too. But anyway, can I disclose that? Yes, that's disclosed. So working with Kevin Smith is really awesome. He's the nicest guy in the whole wide world. He really loved the show when he was a kid. So his place comes from real love and not let's make fun of this camp classic kind of thing. For me, my brother and I watched the show daily. And so when I got the part, the first person I told, not my wife, was my brother.
Yeah.
I told my brother. And, oh, thanks, Jeff. So that's really cool. I saw a bit of it. What's today? Friday? Today, Friday? So Wednesday. I saw a bit of it on Wednesday, and it looks really good. Really, really, really good. In keeping with the style, but upgrading it a little bit. And so I think anybody who's a fan of the show, the original show, is going to really love it. And those that haven't seen it, they don't need to see it. It can stand alone. But anyway, yeah, I'm super excited about that. I think that's on Netflix. I may be wrong. But
yes, no, it is. I saw the trailer for it, and it is a Netflix.
Cool.
Yes. Now.
Right. Space Ghost. That was cool. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Apart from acting, you are also a very avid gardener. Are you not?
Yes.
Anyone who likes anything about flowers needs to go check out this man's Instagram.
Oh.
It is at Bader Diedrich on Instagram, and it is filled with nothing but beauty and flowers. And can you talk a little bit about how you feel, what flowers and plants and gardening does for you?
So it's my hobby and a great love of mine. I genuinely enjoy working in the garden. So when you go to the Insta, I'm trying to create a place where you can meditate and be at peace. I know that sounds kind of hokey, but the garden gives me peace, and I love it. It gives you a great sense of the capability of beauty and nature and our influence in it, because it's all been kind of bred by us. But it's a beautiful thing. It gives me a lot of joy. In my career, I get rejected a lot, and thanks, Phoenix. I get rejected a lot. It's just part of it, and I would kind of drink it over, which wasn't really getting anybody anywhere. It just made me bitter and just sort of ruminated on that. But what I discovered in the garden is that I go out in the garden and I accept the fact that I was rejected. I let it go in and just sit in it for a little bit. Then I look at the garden and I realize, I need some work to do over here. There's a little bit of work to do over there. And then I get to work, and about half hour in, I totally forgot, and I'm just working on the garden, and I really genuinely enjoy it. So I hope that when people go to the Insta and they look at the flowers, that they get the sense of peace that I get from being in the garden. That's my hope.
I think they will. I mean, I went today just so I could get what your Instagram the handle was, so I could send people there. Again, it's Bader Diedrich, just his name backwards, at Bader Diedrich. And when you go, it just immediately it pops out at you, and you do get a sense that it's just it's very relaxing, and it's a place that you just want to be, because I can understand when things go wrong, when things go bad, when you don't get a part that you wanted, or if you happen to be in a lockdown for an entire year and just want some place to go to unwind, and there it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was great during the lockdown to be able to go and work in my garden and spend some more time with my flowers. Also, when my mother died, I have a lot of her pieces in my garden, so I was able to see her and be with her and accept the nature of life. So I have a question from Jen H. Can I answer it?
Yes.
Okay. I would love to work with Wes Anderson, and I would love to work with Bill Murray. I would really love to work with Bill Murray.
Oh, that would be fun, I think.
I think it would just be fun. I'd love to just be a supporting character and just watch him work. I think that would be a really great thing. I worship him. So that would be really cool for me. yeah, I'm just being sincere. I guess I could have come up with something cooler, but gardening needs games. All right, I'll look for it. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so that's the answer.
Nice. Let me see if there's anything else. I know that we are approaching the end of this interview. So is there anything that hasn't been brought up that you would like to talk about? Anything you'd like to say? Any?
No, I hope that everyone realizes that what we've all gone through was a terrible, really terrible thing. And I just want to say personally that for me to be given the opportunity to try to entertain all of you during this time was the greatest honor of my life. And I'm very appreciative for that opportunity. I think people that were able to entertain during war or other moments of fantastic strife, this great tumult and tragedy, you realize why people want comedy, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do what I could to entertain you during this time, and I hope that I have in some way brought you peace, and yeah, bless you.
Yes. I think I don't have any more questions at the moment.
Cool.
So I don't know.
I gotta sit at my barbecue anyway. I'm doing a barbecue this afternoon, so I gotta set it up.
Cool, very cool.
Yeah.
I would just, I guess, hold on just a second. I guess I'll just say thanks for doing this, for being here, for answering the questions, and
my pleasure. Thanks for contributing to the Actors Fund. It's a great charity, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, and that's important, and we want everyone to know that we're having a sweepstakes this weekend, and you contribute to the Actors Fund or share links to the contributions to the Actors Fund on your Facebook or in any of your social media, and you can be, there are prizes that you can win, and yeah, it's very important, and it helps people out from actors on down through everyone that works in the entertainment industry. And it's very much something that everyone should be aware of and should help. And I would say, again, thanks for being here. Thank
Steve,
you.
Thanks. Everybody, Steve, this is his first time that he's done an interview with an actor type like myself, and I think he did a fabulous job. Welcome to the world. You were great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really appreciated all your questions and the research that you did, because it seemed to come from a genuine place. And I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, one of the last thing I want to say is thank you very much for saying yes to Mike Judge and being in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is awesome. And I guess, does Kelly want to come on now? Is there, do you have like the video you need to play, or?
Hey, Kelly, you changed outfits. You're muted.
You're muted, Kelly.
I did. This is goes with the next panel. Thank you so much, Diedrich.
Oh yeah, my pleasure, Cal.
I highly enjoyed this. You were wonderful.
Oh, awesome. Thanks.
Such a wonderful way. But yes, I do have a video. Thanks. Kevin's in our private chat. So really appreciate seeing you. And
yeah, say hello to George for me.
I will. I get to interview him, and yeah, I'm going to be Lois Lane, because of course, who else gets to interview Superman but Lois Lane? So
naturally,
should I have dressed as Robin?
Yeah,
might have been a little creepy. But...
no, Steve, I think you should have dressed as Supergirl.
I have before.
Yeah,
I have before.
You have before.
I cosplayed as Supergirl in Metropolis, Illinois, and it was, everyone loved it.
Yeah, of course. They wouldn't tell you otherwise.
It was fantastic.
When I saw you, I was like, I wonder if he's ever dressed as Supergirl. That's what I was like.
Well,
you knew he's got that look.
I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to, like whatever. But I was like,
I blamed it on the red kryptonite. I had a red kryptonite prop, and that red kryptonite is what caused me to get manly features and to have a lower voice.
Yeah.
And everyone loved it.
Because red kryptonite does whatever the plot.
You do you, buddy. Whatever works for you. Whatever works. All right. Anyway, thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you very much.
You were absolutely lovely.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. And Steve, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone, I am going to play our little video spiel. Actually, before I do that, I want to thank all the podcasts that have made this weekend happen. Like, we have a lot of podcasting friends who are on our committee. So, and we also have a lot of podcasters who helped get the word out. So, thank you to all these wonderful podcasts. All right, and now...
This convention is also a fundraiser for the Actors Fund. The Actors Fund fosters stability and resiliency and provides a safety net for performing arts and entertainment professionals over their lifespan. You can support the Actors Fund by following the link below and donating. Every donation also enters you into our sweepstakes and gives you a chance to win these fantastic prizes.